Hi guys, so today I'm going to have a look at this Bluetooth keyboard. Fairly ubiquitous bit of kit, pretty innocuous looking. These are pretty standard. You go and buy yourself a tablet or a Windows mobile or whatever, and a lot of these smart covers for tablets have a keyboard, Bluetooth keyboard, and it converts your cover into a smart cover. Now these are generic, and you find out, as I did, it actually came with a Windows device, Windows tablet from ages ago, that these are standard units, and actually it's all right. It's not the easiest to type on, but it's okay. It's okay. It works. You know, you find out that actually your smart cover is just a cover, and this floats around inside it, and sometimes it's magnetic, sometimes not. It kind of depends. Anyway, so I've used it a little bit, and I've enjoyed using it. You know, it's all right. It's okay for an emergency thing. It's okay. You have a micro USB there for the power for charging, and the battery life was really good. At the moment, the battery life is not so good. So you turn it on, you try and charge it, not great. So I tried this a month or so ago, thinking, oh, that could be quite useful for something on my desk. Fine, no problem. And then it wasn't charging, so that's a bit weird. And then you turn it over, and it's the dreaded, oh dear, there's a massive bulge. So you can see there that the battery is trying to escape. Ugh. So that's not nice. Unfortunately, it ain't going to work like that. Doesn't work on a connection, the power connection in there. I guess it's probably just shut down because yeah, that's not looking great. Anyway, regardless of whether you could hot wire it and keep it and run it with the power connected, I don't think I like typing away on something where it's all bulged. So in the best traditions of YouTube, specifically guys like Big Clive, who's a lot braver than me, a lot more expert than me when it comes to well, most electronics, well, all electronics to be fair. He's guy's a bit of a marvel. Yeah, I've got my explodey tin. Not as big as his, but hey, you've got to start somewhere. So I'm going to use this spudger here to try and prise this open, because that base will be glued. So let's see whether we can make some progress. I really don't want to chuck this out. It has the potential of a nice device. Wow, that's very, very, very glued on. I think all I'm going to end up doing is ruining this spudger. I didn't really want to go with a metal one, but I think I might have to go with a metal one right next to the flaming NiCad cell. Whoa, you don't like that. Yeah. In fact, that's the kind of noise that Big Clive Live would make, and makes quite often. Usually when he's trying to prise something open. Oh, actually that is screwed on. Oh, that's strange. Is it actually screwed on? Oh my goodness, it is screwed on. Okay, so that's probably ruined that bit. Although that whole thing's bent anyway. So I think actually it's this bit here. Yeah, look, there's little screws there. I didn't know that. Interesting. Okay, let's get a screwdriver on the case. That might make the whole thing a lot easier to service. I'm really quite impressed. Can you feel that maybe? Not sure. Well, I guess there's we go into the corners and then we can work through from there. It's perished a little tiny bit, but you know what? This is serviceable. I'd always glue it down a little bit. I don't really care. This is it's a useful bit of kit. Yeah, nice little portable Bluetooth keyboard, and yeah, it's good to have. And I do have a couple of cases that this can convert to smart cases, so yeah, it's definitely worth having if it can be repaired. I guess the first thing is, as ever, getting the flipping thing open. Yeah, I think there's quite a few screws on this actually. So let's peel that. Oh, there's gonna be loads. Yeah, okay. So there's yeah, so you can see there'll be regular screws. So there can be two on it on each side. So I'm hoping if I don't have to peel this whole thing back, then that'll be fine. I don't know whether there are screws sort of midway. I'd be surprised if there weren't. And if that's the case, that might be tricky, because I don't know what that's going to look like. You know, it's going to end up being pretty nasty under there. You end up with a back that is, well, it's going to look like that. It's going to look awful. But maybe there's other things I could do. I don't know. I could get some neoprene and stick it on the back. I don't know. There's probably things we could do. And you know what? If it is a bit, yeah, I don't mind that much. At the moment, it's destined for the bin, and that's not great. So, one thing we will have to do, of course, is to bend it back in shape, because the bulge on that battery really is significant. And yeah, it bent the whole thing, so that's not great. It seems to be coming together. Coming together. It's not coming together at all. Coming apart quite easily. Oh, hang on. Yeah, I was watching Big Clive Live the other day, and I was struck. If you actually sit back and listen, he does make some weird noises. And it's usually things like noises with NiCads. And you know what? I don't blame him. This stuff is weird. And, you know, there's so much energy stored in these things. He recently did some videos about the combustibility of those cells and the rest of it. And he made some very interesting points. Perhaps it's not quite as dangerous as people make out. But there's still that unknown, you know, and it's not just them catching fire or anything like that. It's also the fact that the chemicals themselves are toxic. So there's always a potential for it to be just nasty and make a terrible mess. Oh, that's moved. Look at that. That came off quite easy. So I think I can probably just glue that back down. That will be it. I mean, it needs a bit of a clean, but that's all right. So there's a plastic spacer there, which is good. The battery, as you can see, not a very generous battery. I wonder whether it's possible to actually upgrade this. Maybe make have something with a bit more capacity. I'm not sure. So there's the control board there. So let's get that off. These screws are a little different. They've got a much wider head on them. And what I'll have to do is see whether I have a battery that will fit, or if I don't, how I can essentially just adapt it. So let's get this open. Yeah, that's pretty oh yeah, that's very, yeah, okay. So it's a standard Bluetooth module. You see these everywhere. So this is very, very standard. A lot of these things are, you know, that will be like a Bluetooth stamp, as they're called. So, you know, nothing too out of the ordinary there. So that's all very standard. You can see it's actually soldered on. So I'm going to have to get this NiCad off, or this lithium battery off, and that is the horrible bit. You can see how much it's bulged, and there'll be a sticky pad under there to hold it down. I'm going to have to desolder that. So what I'm going to do first is just desolder it straight away. I don't want that messing around in there. That's not good. So I'm going to be nice and desolder it nice. I'll just come straight off. Don't let it short. I know it's probably dead, but there's one thing we don't want to do. So with those there, I'm going to bang a little bit of tape on it. Right. Before I do that, I'm just going to test the voltage, expecting there to basically be none. These cells shouldn't be discharged into the negative volts. Again, I recommend watching his recent videos about about batteries and charge and things like that. It's actually fascinating. Yeah, so there's absolutely nothing on there. So all the chemistry is completely gone. But what I am going to do is put some tape on one of the leads. I just don't like the fact that it's, you know, it's a cell. And yeah, I think all the chemistry is given up long ago. However, don't like it. So the important thing now is how can we prise that off? Yeah, I can see a sticky pad under there, and I won't be able to use my spudger. I'm going to have to use a screwdriver. Ew. Yeah, you can see right down in there. It's all very. You can see the pad, in fact. Oof. This one's too big. I need a finer screwdriver than that. The flip side is you don't want one that's too fine because you end up stabbing it into the cell, and that's not great. Like I say, I don't think there's going to be any residual fire or banging or things like that, but the problem is that you could end up with chemicals everywhere. So that's not great. Right, I tell you what, I'm just going to I'm going to put, where have they gone? I had some gloves somewhere. And they disappeared. I'm sure they were there earlier. A minute. Nope. Where have they gone? Ah, yeah. Oh, I don't know where they've gone. That's a shame. Okay, well, am I just going to have to get a bit braver? Maybe I'll just get a bit braver. Yeah, okay, a bit braver. Back to the original screwdriver. Wow, that you can see there that how old that is. I'm not sure how easy it is to. There you go. So that's come away now. Okay. So there's some control circuitry in there. Presumably quite standard control circuitry. It doesn't give you any indication as to the capacity or voltage of the cell. I think we can probably conclude it's a standard unit. So this kind of thing is so it's going to be a 3.7. Chances are, well, I don't know how many milliamp hours that's going to be. I just don't know. So the interesting thing is, the question is, do I have anything that will serve as a replacement for that? Is the question. I want to put that back on the explodey tin, and just so it's out of the way. So I don't know what this. So this one doesn't have any. So I've got a cell here, but I don't think this is in good nick either. So I mean that goes on the explodey tin. Maybe not actually. Hang on a sec. What did I say about those exposed wires? Okay, so if you want to test the thing, you've got to expose the wires, but it's the idea of leaving them exposed when they're just sort of floating around. I don't like that. At least with that approach, you know, you've got some protection. Not much, but enough. So let's have a look at what I might have in storage. Oh my god, I've got a massive one there, but that's just too big. Yeah, I've got all these. I've got these Liffey ones, but they're huge. I mean, they'll last for ages, but they're just too big. Let's see whether I can find anything else. I do have that one, but that's too big. That is actually an iPhone one. That would be perfect to go in there. Yeah, that would be perfect, but it's too big. Yeah, that's too big. That's a real shame. Some kind of weird Frankenstein styling. Not sure I've got one actually. I might have to buy one. I didn't mean that to sound quite as strange as it came out. So we'll buy one. What? There. Okay, I'm going to have to get one from somewhere. Don't know. Chances are it's going to be one of these 3.7 volt jobs. So yeah, I'm going to need to look online. Or have a think about where else I could harvest one from. I wonder. Interesting challenge. All right, okay, I'll get back to you on that, and yeah, I'll see you in a bit. Right, so I've been digging around in my parts bin, and these two, I mean, that's the original, obviously no good. That one, yeah, that's a bit bulgy. I don't think that's any good either. But I found this one. It's a bit wrinkled on the side, but it doesn't seem to be bulging. If you have a look at it, it's pretty flat, you know. So I don't know. It doesn't measure any voltage, but that's not necessarily a write-off. So I think it's probably worth doing it, sticking it in, and then maybe see if we can charge it up. I think that's probably worth a go. Wait for the second to heat up. So one thing I noticed, so normally you'd have like a pad and stuff, and that's sticking it down, so there's a bit of sticky left in there. But if you look, it's absolutely perfect. It's almost like it's made for it. It's kind of weird, and I'm not sure, but that's 500 milliamp hour according to the sticker. That is potentially going to be much bigger than that. If the cell's any good, it's like, well, maybe a third the size again, perhaps more. So maybe that was like a 300 milliamp hour, something like that, or thereabouts. So yeah, if it works, then that's great. It might actually have some decent life. That's if the battery comes back to life. And of course, it's second-hand battery, so even if it does come back to life, the battery life might be appalling. But at least we know now that it's doable and replaceable. And if I come across any other spare cells, you know, with this thing, even though it's a bit flappy on here, once it's on the bench, you don't really see it. So it's become a lot more user serviceable in some ways, you know. So let's see. I forgot to put the soldering iron on, so it's taking a little bit of time to heat up. I'll get some solder on there.
taking the solder particularly well. Yeah. Not sure whether that has whether that wire is any good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is trim these because there's not much space in the case, and I need to trim it right back. So if we have it, if you can see this all right, let's move it to there. If we have it that way round, then these bits aren't colliding with that, and actually that works quite well. So I'll just move this one out of the way a little bit. There is the positive. I'm going to put, I need to hold this down, so what I'm going to do is just use a pair of pliers just to put some weight on there to hold that down so it doesn't move around, and then we can solder the positive. And I've just done it the wrong way around. Positive, I should have got my other glasses. Okay, and then the negative. Okay, so that's back, so that's there. So this one goes here, and that's obviously got to be screwed down. So let's put some screws back into the circuit board so it's not moving around the place. It's not really the right screwdriver for that. Okay, so there's no voltage being applied to this yet, so we'll get these screws in there so we can flip it over and activate the control panel. For now, what I'm going to do is just put some tape on the battery to stop it moving around, and then ultimately, perhaps if we do a which way is it going to be? It's going to be there, isn't it? If we find a sticky pad, it has to be a very, very thin sticky pad because we don't want it to be pushing the case out, you know. There's a hole for a screw there, but I don't have one. I'm not sure how many came out. I didn't actually keep track. So that's probably enough. The important thing is that you're able to push the buttons and all that sort of stuff. So let's get that tape, which is doing good service today, the tape. So let's that's just to hold it in place there. Yeah. So I'm going to switch it off. It's good. I'm going to plug it in. Power adapter with the bench top power supply, bench top socket. Very nice. That's right. Okay, so what I'm going to do now actually is I'm going to move that there. I'm going to empty this out. And I'm going to put the screws. So these batteries are going to go. I've got a tin which contains all the dead batteries as a container before I take it down to the recycling place. So we want to see what the status of that is, and I'm going to put it that way in case the battery pack goes funny. sure I'm not going to short it out. So if we do it like that, okay. Well, that's apparently not taking charge. There's nothing. I'm not sure about this battery connector here. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take these out and we'll just have the circuit board floating around for now. That's probably better because there's only, we don't actually need to push any buttons. I realise it's, you know, now it's off. The off is a mechanical switch, so that's in the off position. So I'm happy with that. The rest of it actually we don't need to touch. So what we can probably do is keep that there like that, kind of visible, and then plug this in to charge. So I'm not sure whether this connector for the charging port is any good. It seems very unusually stiff. Oh, there you go. So that is now apparently charging. Okay, well, yes, that's good. So this connector is a bit dodgy. So what I'm going to do is we'll just leave that. We'll leave that for a few minutes. Come back and check on it and see whether it's expanded, caught fire, jumped across the office. Who knows? Or perhaps it's working. I just don't know. It's going to take a while to charge because it was down to 0 volts, which technically you shouldn't have. So the chemistry in the cell might be completely. So some time has passed, and we've been charging maybe for 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that. I'm not entirely sure. So that charging light is on, which is a good thing. The device is on. I'm not sure whether it will allow me to charge to pair whilst that's disconnected. I'll just turn it off for a minute. Okay, so that is now. So if I do that, hold down the connect button. Yeah, I'm not sure it's responding at all. There's no heat there. Check if there's any voltage at all across that cell. Yes, there is. Interesting. So there is voltage across that cell, which is good. So is that the right way around? Let me just check the thing. So on is that way. That is actually on. Okay, so I had it off. Okay. Well, that's blue. That's good. So if I hold this button down, that should go into discovery mode. Okay, so on the tablet, let's see if we can pair a new device. That's still flashing. I think you need to there we go. Bluetooth keyboard. Interesting. Pairing. Pair that. Connecting. Switch to normal mode settings, yeah, whatever. So, does that work? Hey!
Not a very spectacular test, but look at that. Nice, it's working. That's really good. So yeah, nice fix. Okay, so that's obviously got this horrible, let's turn it off first, this horrible bit of tape. So I think what I'm going to do is just, it's a bit of a bodge, but it doesn't really need much because of the position of this is actually very well secured anyway. But I think what I'm going to do is just lift this up and put the tape behind it and then stuff it down there, because you don't want anything that is too thick, because it will just get it in the way. So now it's a case of putting these screws back in and get some more light on this subject. That's better. So I noticed one thing before was that the charging port was not very accessible. So both of these screws were in there, but it didn't look very good. It seemed tricky to actually push the charging cable in. So we might have to do some messing around with that. Okay, let's just get these screws in and then we can test that. Yeah. So when I said before that there seemed to be a screw missing, it's not actually the case, because there's no threading in that particular hole. That was never actually populated. Okay, so that's now off. If I plug this in, so some time has passed and we've been charging maybe for 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that. I'm not entirely sure. So that charging light is on, which is a good thing. The device is on. I'm not sure whether it will allow me to charge, to pair whilst that's disconnected. I'll just turn it off for a minute. Okay, so that is now, so if I do that, hold down the connect button. Yeah, I'm not sure it's responding at all. There's no heat there. Let's check if there's any voltage at all across that cell. Yes, there is. Interesting. So there was voltage across that cell, which is good. So is that the right way around? Let me just check the thing. So on is that way. That is actually on. Okay, so I had it off. Okay. Well, that's blue. That's good. So if I hold this button down, that should go into discovery mode. Okay, so on the tablet, let's see if we can pair a new device. That's still flashing. I think you need to there we go. Bluetooth keyboard. Interesting. Pairing. Pair that. Connecting. Switch to normal mode settings, yeah, whatever. So, does that work? Hey! Not a very spectacular test, but look at that. Nice, it's working. That's really good. So, yeah, nice fix. Okay, so that's obviously got this horrible, let's turn it off first,
this horrible bit of tape. So I think what I'm going to do is just, it's a bit of a bodge, but it doesn't really need much because of the position of this is actually very well secured anyway. But I think what I'm going to do is just lift this up and put the tape behind it and then stuff it down there, because you don't want anything that is too thick, because it will just get in the way. So now it's a case of putting these screws back in and get some more light on this subject. That's better. So I noticed one thing before was that the charging port was not very accessible. So both of these screws were in there, but it didn't look very good. It seemed tricky to actually push the charging cable in. So we might have to do some messing around with that. Okay, let's just get these screws in and then we can test that. Yeah. So when I said before that there was seemed to be a screw missing, it's not actually the case, because there's no threading in that particular hole. That was never actually populated. Okay, so that's now off. If I plug this in, can we charge? Yeah, that's charging. Fantastic. So it's a case of being a bit more assertive with this charger, to be honest. Maybe that plug is a little bit big. Anyway, so that seems to be good. Those wires are out of the way. Now it's a case of just putting this back in. So the plastic shield, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not ideal. That cell is a little bit too big, actually. I think what I'm going to do is just remove that altogether. It's not the ideal cell, but you know, it's better than nothing, and it works. With that out of the way, yeah, it's a little bit proud, but it's not too bad. It's certainly usable. This keyboard was actually, I was intending to use this keyboard only for debugging work. In fact, I think that particular, that corner where it's bulged up, that's actually pushed the screw out and damaged the thread. So that corner is always going to be a bit dicky, I think. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get that thing in there. Yeah, so that screw there doesn't really want to stay. That could be a problem. But like I say, as a device that was destined for the bin, it works, and I can use it for debugging and just as a tiny little keyboard. So I use a program called Synergy on my desktop machine. It's actually a laptop, but that machine is the host, and you install client software, same software but in client mode on the other machines you're attached to, and you can control them from from the host. So essentially you're sharing your keyboard and mouse, so you only need one keyboard and mouse on your desktop, and as you move around, the mouse and keyboard jump to different machines on the network, and you can arrange them in whatever pattern you like. Absolutely brilliant. I was one of the early backers of Synergy, and it's always been a fantastic program. Has a few little weird quirks, but it's really, really good. Supports Windows, supports Mac, supports Linux. You could have multiple machines at once. You could have a whole wall of machines that you're controlling via one host. It's absolutely brilliant. Thoroughly recommend that program. So that's great. However, sometimes you do kind of need a physical keyboard. I know this is USB, it's not. This is Bluetooth, not actually physical. Unfortunately, it doesn't double up as a USB connected keyboard, which is a bit of a shame. But sometimes, as a keyboard that you just want to use, there you go, perfect. I mean, you wouldn't even know that is Dicky, that side, without a doubt. But it's not perfect. But actually, this is kind of okay. Oh, I'm typing, and this thing is woken up. Hey, that's good. So I'm really pleased with that. So I think I'm going to give it a proper charge. And we'll call that a success and rescued from the bin. That's a right result. So let's plug it in. Give it a proper charge. And then it's back to work for that keyboard. Very nice. Cheers.